Oliver Garside is the Chief Evangelist of Rounded, an Aussie accounting software built by a freelancer to make other freelancers' lives easier. With a customer satisfaction rating of 99%, he's practically a customer whisperer. So if you want to learn how to wow your precious clients and keep them happy, you're going to love what Oliver has to share. It's a financially responsible episode 631 of the 13-year-old award-winning small business big marketing podcast.
Well, I said, welcome to a small business marketing show where successful small business owners share their souls to take your marketing straight to the lead. Now, here's your host, Mr. Timbo Reid.
And welcome back to your weekly dose of well-rounded marketing. See what I did there? I'm your host, Timbo Reid, and I have an insatiable curiosity for uncovering marketing ideas that help businesses just like yours to grow. I do that through a weekly in-depth conversation with a successful business founder who has walked the path before us. You, infinitely more importantly, you're a motivated business owner. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. And you're ready to crank out some great marketing to build that beautiful business of yours into the empire it absolutely deserves to be. As per usual, team, there is marketing GOLD dripping from the ceiling over here at Small Business Big Marketing's HQ. So let's get stuck right in. Righto, team. Before we meet today's special guest, a quick travel update from my apartment in Gay Parry. After an incredible time in Muscat, Sarah and I have been schlepping our way through this amazing city this past week. Riots and all, rubbish on the streets and all, ticking all the tourist boxes and also finding our way off the beaten track, which of course, as you know, is where the magic happens. We did an amazing Airbnb experience with a local guy who took us deep inside the French Revolution, including walking down the actual street Marie Antoinette travelled down on her way to the guillotine, or the National Razor, as the locals like to call it. And I ventured out into the Badlands, aka Paris's outer suburbs, where I took part in another Airbnb experience with a local artist who showed me the underground street art movement. Whilst I didn't see a Banksy, which I would have loved to have, but I don't think he's got one in Paris, I saw some incredible art and how it's benefiting local businesses. And I got to tell you, if you're looking for a side hustle or maybe the potential to add an additional income stream to your existing business, then you could do a lot worse than creating your own Airbnb experience. And that is not a paid endorsement. Trust me. Along the way, I've come across 8 marketing ideas and business opportunities to help your business grow. And I've created a video about each one. You're welcome. Topics include a clever 3-way retail offering involving a clothes shop, a cafe, and a coffee machine repair business, a mind-blowing strategic partnership between Louis Vuitton, do you like how I said that? And a world-famous artist. I visited a tiny bookshop that, thanks to being featured in a Hollywood film, had a queue a mile long out the front. I found a cafe that absolutely nailed its music selection based on the time of day. And I was reminded of a simple but super effective marketing tactic by a guy selling padlocks on a bridge opposite the Eiffel Tower. Yeah. You can find videos of me sharing all these ideas and more inside my small business owner membership over at patreon.com/marketing podcast, where membership starts from a low and tax deductible $8.50 a month. I've also dropped a few travel pics in the Small Business Big Marketing Facebook tribe if you'd like to play along at home. Righto, enough of that. Let's go and meet today's special guest. Oliver Garside is the co-founder and chief evangelist of Rounded, an online accounting software built specifically to help Aussie freelancers manage the financial side of their businesses better. Think Xero or QuickBooks without all the unnecessary bells and whistles. He says he's his customer's biggest fan, a line that made me sit up and take notice. Why? Because whilst we all pay lip service to the idea that our customers are everything, I'm not sure enough of us truly live it day to day in our own businesses. To that end, Oliver's built an industry-leading customer success function which consistently achieves a 99% satisfaction rating. So let's find out what placing your precious customers front and center actually looks like, how they can play an integral role in optimizing your product or service offering, and how to nurture them so they stick around for a very, very long time. Oliver, welcome. Where'd the idea for Rounded come from, and what problem were you solving?
Yeah, thanks, Tim. It came from my co-founder, Grant McCall. Grant, back in 2013-14, was a creative freelancer traveling the world and servicing a predominantly Australian client base. And he was just exasperated at the lack of suitable fit-for-purpose tools to help him manage his business. And by that, I meant they were either way too expensive, way too complex and overwhelming and just overkill, or not suitable for the Australian tax system. So the first iteration of Rounded was really him solving his own problem and building something to suit his own business, and then found that, there was a market for it, and that's what Rounded became.
So many great businesses are built from the problem the founder had. Seems pretty obvious, doesn't it? Doesn't always happen. I've interviewed many business owners that just like to create businesses and brands, but the idea of Rounded seems very obvious. I mean, there's plenty of freelancers. And by the way, just define freelancers. I know that sounds like an obvious question, Oliver, but is it just creative types, or is it consultants and coaches?
It's a really good question. So as far as we're concerned, our target customer is a sole trader, an ABN sole trader. So that's somebody who works for themselves. We do have people that work under a company structure too, but predominantly an ABN sole trader with no employees.
Well, there's a lot of my listeners who are going, that's me. And I'm one of them. And I am a user of Xero. Hello to everyone at Xero. But it is super frustrating. And so I totally get why Rounded came along, because, having Xero as a sole trader, it's a bit like owning a Lamborghini where you really only need a Commodore. It's like, I've got all these bells and whistles. I don't know what half of them do. Which brings me to a thought that, and I love a good niche, Oliver, don't get me wrong, but I would imagine a great threat to Rounded is if Xero or QuickBooks decide to go down some verticals and provide simplified offers, in this case, to freelancers. What do you say to that?
Yeah, look, and if you're talking about those two in particular, they've been around longer than we have, right? So they've been there kind of on the fringes of this particular very niche demographic from the beginning. And I guess we always took the view that we'll just worry about what we do. Intuit's one of the biggest software companies on the planet, market cap of 7 billion or something like that. They would find their marketing budget down the back of the sofa would be 2 years' revenue for us. So, we decided early days, that we can't worry about that. We just had to build the best app and the best experience that we could. And of course, they could, and they do frequently focus on this market, but we find that our customers appreciate who we are and what we do. And so far, we've managed to stay in business for 7 years. So we must be doing something right.
Well, and I guess to that point of, a Xero going down a vertical and blowing you out of the water, at the end of the day, if you build a strong enough brand, I'm just sort of thinking aloud here on your behalf, but if you build a strong enough brand, people, freelancers in your case, are going to go, listen, Rounded gets me. I know that Xero's gone down a path of this, but Rounded is a dedicated service for the solopreneur. And that's what you're owning, right? That's your point of difference. You launched with an MVP, a minimum viable product, which was a big concept that came out of the book, The Lean Startup. MVP, for those who don't know what it is, it's just getting something to market. It's not very good, but it's good enough. Do you look back and cringe at that MVP that you did launch, Oliver, or are you really proud of it?
Oh, look, we're really proud of it. At the time, we were the first to market, specifically focusing on that niche. And of course, we brought the app and the business a long way since then. But absolutely, we were proud of it at the time. Our team did a brilliant job in getting it, probably more than an MVP. It sort of resonated instantly with the market that we were trying to chase. So, we're kind of proud of the bumps and the scrapes and everything that Rounded has been in the last 7 years.
Tell me, can you reflect back on that time? I know it was 7 years ago, Oliver, but I'm interested because the idea of an MVP is brilliant. It's like, what's that saying? Shit or get off the potty, something like that. It's like at some point you got to jump off the cliff, right? Can you reflect back on that time and think about the debates amongst maybe you and your co-founder or staff saying, oh, no, it's not ready. Yes, it is ready. No, it's not ready. Just launch the bloody thing. Because there are a lot of business owners listening who are sitting on something waiting for it to be perfect, and that day's never going to come.
So to be perfectly sort of transparent, I didn't have any input into that decision at all. I joined the business through a mutual contact, and somebody who introduced me. I was looking for something new, something with a higher risk profile. I'd already taken the leap of faith and left my quite well-paying job with a large social network, and he said, look, I've got these guys that built this out. They're both engineers. I need somebody with your background, with a customer background, to come and sell this thing. So it was kind of out there in the wild anyway. So I thought, all right, I'll give it 6 months and see what happens and get sort of a feel for what startup life would be like. And so really it was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And, my laptop arrived and I opened it up at my kitchen table, and it was like, my first thought was, now what? What do I actually do? I've got no marketing team. I've got no PowerPoint presentations. I've got nothing, apart from this app and a website, and, no credibility, no track record, no brand.
Wow.
And it was really about what do I do to get this thing up and running?
Well, I'm interested in what you did do, but before you tell us that, because I know you launched with zero marketing budget, what drew you? You were working for LinkedIn, that big social network that you mentioned.
Correct.
You were working there. I'm not sure any corporate job's safe, but feels safe, feels important, probably pays well, looks good on the resume. What made you decide to jump into something such high risk?
Well, the great thing about LinkedIn is I joined at a time where they just entered the Australian market and started focusing internationally. So that would have been in and around sort of 2010, 2011. And really, they had, 800,000 users in Australia. So it was really very small and very niche at that point. So I went on this rocket ship ride, did the trips to San Francisco, got to meet some amazingly smart people, and really kind of my first insight into that sort of entrepreneurial type of way of thinking of anything is possible, especially with software, and you've just got to go and do it. And after 5 years, it just got to the point where it just changed, and part of that was me and what I was looking for, and so but it was a great company to work for. As I said, overseas trips, health insurance, 3 square meals a day, all of the typical,
all the perks,
Silicon Valley perks. But I sort of had a bit of an epiphany in that I realized I did want something else, and so I kind of realized that if I didn't proactively move away from all of that comfort, I'd never be able to properly assess what a startup opportunity was.
Good on you, mate. Well, that's admirable. That is very admirable. In fact, just reflecting back at that time, it was a real coup for me back then. I interviewed, I think it was Cliff Rosenberg.
Yeah, so he was the country manager. He did my interview.
He was the big guy.
Me. Yeah,
he was one of the first guests on this podcast.
Right.
So there you go. I don't know why he said yes. I think I only had about 10 listeners at the time, but doesn't matter. He did. The rest is history. So you launched with zero marketing budget 7 years ago. What were a couple of the most creative and or effective ideas that you put into place?
Well, coming from a background in sales, I'd been around the game long enough to know that, it was a numbers game. And, at the start, what I had to do was do anything I could to get the app into the hands of some people who would use it. And, that was just, there was nothing exciting about it. I found myself, I think the first thing I did was found a list of all of the co-working spaces in Melbourne. And I went and did the free day in the co-working spaces and talked to as many people as I could, talked to the co-working space manager and said, here's a link for a 12-month free trial, give it out to everybody. And so, had a few successes there, and they did. Then I, went onto LinkedIn and I thought, well, we're for freelancers, an area where a lot of freelancers work is journalism. So I manually created a list of every single freelance journalist I could find on LinkedIn. And I spent 2 or 3 weeks crafting individual, no spam, no mass mailing, individual outreach to journalists. And I thought, if anybody likes this, maybe they'll write about it. That didn't happen, but we were able to snag a couple of people willing to give us a go, and thankfully, they are still customers to this day. So that early effort, helped us find people with a bit of a bigger audience. And then from there, it was about understanding what the freelance community in Australia was all about. And so, I found online groups, I found associations like the MEAA and other associations where there were predominantly huge, numbers of freelancers. And this was over a course of, the first couple of years where we would just hand out, free tickets to anybody who wanted, and in the hope that we could get enough people to start getting some, inbound feedback about what we were doing right, what we were doing wrong. So it was like sales 101.
Sales 101.
Get out there.
Roll up the sleeves.
Yeah.
What's beautiful about that, Oliver, is it was probably very personalised. As you get bigger, you sort of get into more mass communication, but quite interesting. I mean, you have this LinkedIn experience, and then you went and used LinkedIn. I'm guessing you had I've never had what is that subscription to LinkedIn, the premium or whatever they call it, allows you to in-mail those who follow you. Just tell us a little bit about that. I've never spoken to anyone about that. So you were using in-mail. You were essentially writing very personalised notes to individual, in this case, journalists or influencers who may be interested in Rounded. It's a good strategy. Any tips on that outside of what we've already talked about for other listeners?
Oh, look, I mean, outbound cold approaches for me, it's about quality, not quantity. If you can send 10 individual, well-researched messages to an audience that you're looking to engage with, you're probably, more likely than 1,000 generic emails, Dear X and mail merge. That's my personal preference, because, again, now being a business owner, I get 15 to 20 cold emails a day, and most of them go straight in the bin. The people that have taken the time to actually really find out who I am and try to at least explain that they understand what my business challenges may be and how they solve them, even and are succinct enough to be able to present that to me in 2 or 3 sentences. They're the people that you want to engage with, right? And so I just tried to aim at that.
It's not brain surgery yet. I can't believe, and I'll say it's the majority get it wrong. So you're getting 10 to 15 pitches a day as a business owner. I'm getting about 5 to 10 pitches a day from EAs or VAs of people who want to be interviewed on my podcast, and they are terrible. In fact, I deconstructed one in my membership site, a really good one, because most of the ones I get are bad, and they always start high, often with no Tim. I really enjoyed the interview you did with Oliver and then they cut and paste the Small Business Big Marketing podcast. Is obviously some little bit of software that just drops in the name of the podcast. They don't comment about what they loved about the episode or anything else other than, it's the most recent episode and the name of the podcast. And then they just get into this dump of, you must interview me or you must interview my boss, it's just delete. Yours was different. Because again, and you've obviously kept it going, that personalisation, which was a lovely note. It was clearly from you, and it had good intention, and here you are. So personalisation is everything.
It works, and as I say, testimony to the fact that I'm here talking to you today.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so Rounded was launched. You're starting to build a brand. There's not really a brand. If we define brand as an emotional attachment, there ain't one because you haven't built a community yet. Can you reflect on the moment where you've looked at your co-founder and said, "Oh, that lever we pulled a month ago seems to have worked"? What was the lever?
Interestingly, probably the first sort of, I don't know if you'd call it a strategic decision, but one of the first really critical decisions that we made was around the length of our free trial. And what we found was happening was that we would talk to people. I would talk to people. They would create a free account, and at that point, I think we offered a 30-day free trial, which is fairly standard. And we found that we'd really struggle to convert them into paying, even though in the first 2 weeks They gave us really great feedback. I can't believe you're focusing on freelancers. This is just what I need. It looks great, or whatever it was. And so I said, you know what? Let's test cutting it in half to 2 weeks. Let's make an imperative for these people to have to make a decision. Let's not let them slide away and drift off. And so we changed it. And I think at that point, we were going 4 or 5 months. And the months that we changed it, we did double the number of conversions from the 5 months previously. Still super small numbers, but it was like instant, that we kind of forced people to really think about it and knowing that, okay, I need to kind of be a bit more on top of this because I've only got 2 weeks rather than, I've got ages.
That interesting. Oh, I would have said that would work. That short 14-day free trial would work for the freelancer who's just getting started because they've got no financial history. There's nothing to transfer across. It's really just open a Rounded account and get going. Whereas someone like me, and you said to me the other day, I use a 14-day free trial. I've got a history in Xero that goes back over 10 years or however long Xero's been around. To me, it feels like changing banks or doctors. It just feels painful. And yet on the other side of that, you get a client, I'm guessing they're sort of with you for life. So
it can, but actually you unwittingly segued into the next great decision that we made. in that we started to get, as we became to be a little bit more known, we started to get people coming to us saying, I really like you and I'm really keen to try you out, but I'm using whoever and I've got all my data in there. And so these were the days where I would have to do this myself, but now the team does it. And we realized that the best prospect we could get is a user that's already using accounting software, right? Because we don't have to sell them on the value. Where we have to sell on the value is somebody doing things manually, spreadsheets, not paying for things. So we said, right, the best thing that we can do as part of the free trial is to invest time to say, you give me your data, we'll get it into the system for you. And so we started doing that. And that's actually something that we still do to this day.
Oh, wow.
So we completely removed that challenge. And so you've actually, again, unwittingly nailed, worked one of the biggest barriers that we came across in the early days and that we removed was we started by we built the CSV import and we did this and we'd give them instructions and it would just be a disaster.
Too hard.
And so I realized, why don't we just do it? And make this, and this was perhaps, again, moving into the second sort of phase of building the company, which was let's just make this easy.
Beautiful.
And so that's also worked really well for us.
Number one tip there, make it easy for your customers to give you money. Amazing how many businesses make it rather difficult for customers to give them money. So have you got a bunch of VAs sitting because in the Philippines, they're all tertiary educated accountants. Well, not all of them, a lot of them. Is that how it works? Because it sounds like an expensive model where you are transferring people's data across.
Look, it can be, and our support team is based in Manila. However, they're absolutely 100% directly employed by us. I trained them personally. They've both been with us for, in excess of 3 years. So they're as much of a part of our team as anybody else. So I guess I just want to make sure that we're, I don't like the some of the stereotypes of the sort of the Filipino VA. That's not what we have. I have a very professional customer success team who are highly, highly trained.
Well, I think that stereotype's changed. I know the stereotype you're referring to, and I've been there a few times. It's, that stereotype is probably 5 years ago, yes, but I think people are coming around to the fact, particularly now, Australia being such an expensive country to live in, we value the Filipinos' input into whether, VA, whatever they're doing in that regard. Those BPOs are a bit of a lifesaver for many.
Yeah.
Oliver, you say you are your customer's biggest fan. I love that quote. How well do you know your ideal client and how have you come to know them so well?
Well, I know them intimately. I talk to customers every single day. When I started for the first 2 or 3 years, I was the person on the other end of the live chat. I did it. So I've built the customer success team by living it. I've built it from the ground up. Even as COO today, with the team underneath me, I am across most of the customer conversations that we have. Again, throughout the years, I have engaged with and spoken to thousands and thousands of freelancers, presented to thousands and thousands of freelance groups. And so I believe I have, and we as a company have an intimate knowledge of the challenges that freelancers face when it comes to managing their business finances.
It must be a fun part of your job, talking to customers, getting their feedback, solving their problems, taking on suggestions and letting them know that maybe one of their suggestions actually made the cut and has been added to Rounded. So I just dig a bit deeper there, Oliver, because I'm interested. What you obviously are. Well, you're booking interviews on podcasts, speaking directly to your clients. Although this is a one-way street, you're not getting any feedback. You are finding stages to speak at conferences, and you're just constantly looking for ways of getting face-to-face with clients?
Yeah, look, the sort of the podcast thing is something we thought we'd try. We've never really done it before, and didn't really know if anybody would be interested to hear what I had to say. So it's going to be interesting to understand, what feedback you get from this. But yeah, look, I think, part of what makes Rounded unique is we are now known for being totally focused on the freelance use case. And it makes it really easy from a marketing point of view. It's difficult because you have to be disciplined about not grabbing the shiny thing, and we can go for this customer or this customer or this customer. We can say, to a customer who's been with us through a side hustle, through starting their own business, through registering for GST, and they come to us and say, I need payroll now. And, we're like, this is fantastic. Congratulations on your business, but you need something else. And we're cool with that, and we've learned to be really comfortable with that, because, it allows us to be so clear with our marketing, with our content, with our branding, with everything that we do. We can just continue to focus on this consistent message of, Rounded is for freelancers. We're an advocate for them. We produce educational content for them. We've got the app that is just for them. It kind of allows our audience to look at us and say, yeah, they get us. And that's kind of the foundation upon which the company's built.
You're using that example of payroll where an existing customer said, can you add payroll? You've said no to payroll. Is that what you've done?
Yeah.
I was just going to say, isn't that an integral part of managing, as a freelancer, managing your financial part of your business?
So before I answer this, I'd just like to make it very clear, right, that I am not an accountant. I'm unable to give financial advice. Please don't edit that bit out. So as an ABN sole trader, you don't have a wage. Okay, you essentially what you eat what you kill. And you've just got to make sure, that you track your expenses and you've got enough, aside to meet your tax obligations. You take what's called owner drawings, and that's not the same as a wage. Once you move, even as a sole trader, to a PTY LTD structure and you become a director, the legal structure is completely different. The tax obligations are completely different, but you then payroll yourself and you're then able to bring on board full-time employees who you can then payroll. And at that point, you need a software application that is going to be single touch payroll or STP compliant and allow you to do all the things like withhold tax, payroll cover, work cover, super, all of those things. But so we don't do that.
I wish I hadn't have asked. I'm not an accountant either. Hey, you've built an industry-leading customer success function, which you say has consistently achieved a 99% satisfaction rating. What is a customer success function?
Yeah, so customer success, or what used to be called customer support. Customer success is probably the American tech version of it, but I've always liked that because it's around focusing on the preposition that if our customers are successful, we will be successful. And so our customer success team, they are there to provide support. But what we need as a business is our customers to be successful and find value in the app as quickly as possible, so they're happy to pay us. Ultimately that, we're a commercial enterprise, we need to make money. So the more value, users see from the app and the quicker they see it, the more likelihood they are to feel comfortable in paying long-term for the service we provide.
Whilst I haven't used Rounded, just looking at the website, I get a sense that the brand has a beautifully elegant usability. and user experience within the back end of it would be actually pretty pleasing, both to the eye and the way it's used. Am I right in that, first of all?
Yeah, and that goes back to Grant. He's the guy that built the interface and the guy with the idea, and his background is as a creative freelancer.
Right.
So again, he built something he wanted to use.
Yeah.
And so naturally, what we found, certainly in the early days, we found that the people that were giving us the great feedback were similarly creative people, as opposed to maybe tradies or whatever. So yes, we built it to be, easy to use and simple, which is, a battle. Anybody can build complicated software. Making something complex, easy and intuitive. Apple would always be, the biggest example of that. 2-year-old kid can pick up an iPhone and use it instantly.
Take us behind that, because I'm just thinking, that has other applications for those listening, those business owners listening. They may have a complicated brochure. They may have a complicated website. They may have a complicated process around something, which is often the case. And as you said, it's actually very easy to be complicated. It's hard to be simple. So what does that look like at Rounded? How do you strip out all the complication and focus on what's important?
Look, I think from a product perspective, and this is not my area of expertise, it's about having a really detailed, being able to put yourself in the user's shoes.
Yes.
Almost being able to mirror what you're seeing and designing something from the user's perspective, which again is hard to do. That requires understanding your customer, being able to translate, what they tell you they want is not always what they want. The Henry Ford, if I ask my customers what they want, they'd say a faster horse type of thing. And that still works today. So, it's being able to translate that and then being able to build something, that sort of, again, stripping away the peripheral things that might distract you. Again, it's the other sort of software thing is if you can't explain it to your grandmother, it's too complicated. So they're probably the principles that Grant uses in terms of design.
Do you ever look over your customer's shoulder, literally?
We don't need to, because they're very good at telling us what they're doing, and the live chat feature that we have inside the app allows them to go, I need help. So they bring us along for the ride, and give us an intimate view into what they're doing, what they find easy, the stuff they love, the stuff they hate, the stuff they find hard. And so, we get a constant, it's almost like Twitter for software feedback. It's completely unfiltered view of our customers and how they're using the app, which is good and bad. We've got ourselves into some trouble, in the past with that. But it's good. So it's good and bad. Well, again, in the early days, we were so like, we can't lose a customer. Like, they're complaining about this. We have to change it. And you've got this sort of knee-jerk reaction of, okay, well, we're working on all this important stuff, but this customer's making so much noise that we're going to stop everything and we're going to fix this. And we fixed it for that one customer, and then 10 customers over here start complaining because they liked it the way that it used to be. And so, again, we had to get to a stage where we were like, we've got to stop doing this because it's just derailing us. We have to have the confidence to know what we're doing, and we have to have the confidence to say no. And understand, perhaps build a more sort of layer a commercial lens across what we decide to build and what we can't, because we can't be all things to all people, and there has to be a level of comfort around that, or you just get pulled in all directions. Hence why we've never built payroll.
There you go. You say that you put customer experience at the core of everything at Rounded. I am a big advocate of customer experience, well beyond customer service. Can you describe the Rounded customer experience or component parts of it, and how do you go about building it?
Yeah, I think it was, again, to perhaps give a bit of context, it's different now to what it used to be. At the beginning, again, I realised that with no brand, no budget, no anything, the best thing I could do was make sure that every interaction a customer or prospective customer had with us was good as it could be. And back in the day, nobody cared about freelancers. It was very, underserviced, ignored demographic. So we were kind of the first ones that were like, doesn't matter that you're only paying us, X dollars a month. We'll sit here and I'll talk to you at 9:00 on a Friday night and help you get this invoice sorted if that's what you need. And that became a self-generating channel for us from a marketing perspective, because we got that referral, freelancers know freelancers, and we began to see the impact of that on Facebook forums and, what accounting software should you use? Oh, I use Rounded. I found Rounded. They're great. Customer service is fantastic. Moving forward now, it's a little bit more sophisticated, okay? So, obviously we have an entire library of content of all different shapes and sizes. I call it, micro, medium, and long-form content that is designed to help not only our users, but the wider community. And again, it serves to not only be valuable to them, but to demonstrate very clearly that, we are you. You look at us and you see yourself reflected in the things that we talk about, the content that we produce, the time and effort we take to make sure that you're okay, the fact that we'll import all your data for you free of charge as part of your free trial. We want to make you feel important. We want every customer to feel as important as the other customer. And so again, that comes down to, putting on live webinars, the live chat that's there, the email courses that we create, the YouTube videos that we create, the webinars with partners that we put on. Everything is around creating a customer experience. And obviously the app is important because that's what generates the income. But as a brand, we want to be known for, for being the go-to resource, whether you're just starting out or whether you're an experienced freelancer. Rounded has the best content. And that's kind of the goal for us, yeah.
You have absolutely adopted what I call helpful marketing. Simple as that. Someone's got to be the most helpful in your industry. It may as well be you. That's my kind of view on things. So much marketing is push, 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 buy from me, buy now, closing soon, end of financial year sale. There's a role for all that kind of stuff. But that idea of pulling people towards you because you've been super helpful, how can customers not stick? Seems so obvious when we talk about it. And, again, for those listening, replay what Oliver just said. Webinars, micro-form helpful content, whatever those other ones were, long-form helpful content. Some of it's probably, a lot of it's behind the paywall. Some of it's front-facing.
None of it is.
None of it is. It's all public-facing.
None of it is.
Legend.
Yeah, all public-facing, all free.
So the upside of that is twofold. One is great one-on-one marketing for existing customers, but also great for SEO.
Well, the core of our marketing activity is really SEO. We are finding our way with paid. It's expensive, and again, this is where being a smaller company has its limitations because there are companies with huge budgets out there that we can't really compete with. But we have already learned that for us, marketing, so paid marketing is the icing on the cake, not the cake.
Love it.
Right?
Yeah.
People would rather eat the cake with no icing than the icing with no cake. Right? And so we're just focusing on the cake. Oh, that's a terrible analogy, but
no, I'll let you keep bearing yourself into that analogy because it's starting to write itself.
Yeah.
Well, we know small business isn't easy, Oliver, and you and I aren't here to say it is. I'm sure you've made mistakes along the way. Tell us about a failed attempt at trying to be too big.
I mean, I think back in the early days when we started, after maybe a year or 18 months, we went through a phase of maybe some bigger companies noticing us. I won't, mention who they are, but, we're talking large financial institutions, other software companies, and they started knocking on the door and saying, hey, we like you. What are you doing? We're like, oh my God, this is brilliant. Like, we're going to sell the company for $1 million, and we're going to,
how many zeros?
And so, we got a few times badly sucked into, boardroom meetings in big shiny glass towers. And have a look at what we're doing. Isn't it great? And they were like, yeah, you know what? We'll let you know, when clearly people were just trying to sort of have a look under the hood and work out how worried they should be. So, we got sucked into that. A bit of times, we've wasted a hell of time on, getting sucked into, let's do this marketing partnership and we'll do all of this. And then you kind of learn a really tough lesson that you can't expect anybody else to sell your product when it's based on a commercial premise. Authentic feedback and advocacy is one thing, but that's really hard to earn. And that goes into the whole helpful marketing type of thing and user experience. And so, again, it's probably, the similar lessons to many of your listeners is that there's no such thing as a free lunch ever. And as soon as you start thinking you're going to get one, you're going to get a rude awakening.
Very true.
There's been plenty of examples where we've felt, we've nailed this, and then really you realise you're just getting schooled by somebody, bigger than you.
Very, very true. No such thing as a free lunch. I've got a marketing idea for you, Oliver. Let's bounce it around. I told you when we first met a few days ago that my daughter is studying fine arts / photography at university. She's final year. It was amazing. The day you contacted me, the night before, she was having a slight meltdown because she got a quote wrong. We quickly had to draw up, a template in Word. We had to figure out how we're going to manage all this process. It was just one of those discussions. From my point of view, it was a great discussion. From her point of view, she was pulling her hair out. It's not taught. Business is not taught in art-focused endeavours, whether it be photography or plumbing. So it's not just art. It's just all these, no one's taught how to run a business. You're taught how to be a good photographer. You're taught how to be a good plumber. There surely is an opportunity for Rounded, if you haven't done it already, to get into these tertiary institutions. And the agenda is we want to get you into Rounded at the very start of your career. But being a helpful brand like you are, just to put your hand up and even say, hey, listen, I'll run a semester on financial management of your business. There's something there.
There is. And without giving too much away, I've got an opportunity later next month to go and speak to a cohort of students at RMIT who are learning to with a specific sort of freelance niche and skill, and I'm hoping that that's going to be a template for me to be able to take that and build out an educational program. We're actually doing it with a couple of other organizations as well, where people are doing vocational qualifications. There's always a business aspect of vocational qualifications, but it's always very generic and not often particularly real world. And so I'm talking about going in and perhaps giving it that sort of real world feel around what happens when you're out there. So we really hope that that's going to work, and that it's something that we're going to be able to, build out and, get people early. And, as you say, another strand to the helpful marketing type of strategy.
Yeah, 100%. The greatest challenge there is working with educational institutions, because obviously they don't like selling. It's not their thing. And that's understandable. But boy, oh boy, you could make a difference to a lot of lives. You could actually save a lot of future pain of future small business owners who, this stuff just sends them crazy. What, you noticed any trends in the freelance economy? It's sort of changing. I imagine there's a lot more coming online. There's a lot more people with side hustles. There's a lot more people wanting to work from home and, leave the big corporate job. Any trends that sort of come to mind, and how is Rounded adapting to meet the needs of the modern freelancer?
That's a great question. I mean, I think overall, it can be cyclical. So, at the moment, there's certain segments where people, maybe the tech segment, which is very volatile at the moment, and people are finding they're losing their full-time jobs. And they're coming out and they're like, right, well, I kind of need to do something. Maybe now's the time for me to take that leap. On the other side, there are people who are thinking about taking a risk and worried about interest rates going up and saying, now's not the time. I'm going to stick at my full-time job and my super, and maybe I'll just wait out 12 months before I kind of really focus on this. So I think that, at any time in, the freelance sort of demographic and the freelance workforce can be very transitional at any one time. So there's always, depending on the macroeconomic climate, there's always people coming out and coming in, depending on what happens. And we continue to see that. In terms of trends, I mean, I think what we're seeing now is just the continued impact of technology removing geographical boundaries. You can create a course or a podcast now from your front room, and you can make it sound like it was engineered in a full studio, with a microphone and some software that is very affordable. I don't need to tell you that. You can create a YouTube course or a course of some sort, and you can sell that online all across the world. You can be, a graphic designer, and you can now have the tools to be able to manage customers anywhere you want. And so that's what we're beginning to see is that, Australia, which has very typically been an insular country because of its remoteness from the rest of the world, we're now finding that our customers are just working everywhere. And, the freelance community is increasingly a global community.
Very true. Very true. Can you see Rounded going global? A tough ask for a product like yours because tax laws differ in every country. Is that a massive blockage to going beyond the shores of Australia?
No. Look, in some, you've got some geographical locations, so predominantly, say, the UK and Canada, where the tax structure is the same by a different name in terms of you've got money, GST, money in, money out, all the rest of it. So the thing for us is the freelance use case is the same all over the world. One of the things that's made Rounded successful in Australia is that we've built a geographically specific experience. So we manage GST. We know all about that stuff. We know about the Australian tax system. And that was one of the things that we wanted to be able to replicate that. For us, the barrier at the moment is size and local knowledge. So they're certainly not insurmountable. But we'd say, we need to nail Australia. And then, then we've got the resources and the ability to go, okay, well, we can pull in the specialist things. We've got the connections in that market. We can start building a brand and I guess reworking the narrative that we have so that it is geographically specific. And at that point, we know how to replicate what we've done.
Well, good on you. It's nice to hear, nail Australia first. It's amazing the amount of business owners I've spoken to, and you talk about growth. And they're itching, if they're a state-based business, they can't wait to be national. If they're national, they can't wait to be Australasia. If they're Australasia, they can't wait to be international. And it's like, just nail the local one first, get that right. And from your point of view, there's no shortage of freelancers that haven't signed up to Rounded yet. So, that's a great thing to focus on. To that end, Oliver, thoroughly enjoyed talking to you. For those listening, rounded.com.au is where you want to go and try it out. And if you use the discount code TIMBO, which is not case sensitive, you'll get 20% off either annual plan. So I encourage you to go to that, rounded.com.au. Just use the discount code TIMBO. Oliver, well done, mate, on loving your customers.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity to have a chat, Tim. Thanks a lot.
Well, there you go, team. Oliver Garside, Chief Evangelist and co-founder of Rounded. Now, if you're a solopreneur or freelancer just starting out, or maybe like me, you're one who's been in business for a long, long time and is looking for an easier accounting system, then take Rounded for a free test run over at rounded.com.au. They have a 14-day free trial. And if you love it, then use the discount code TIMBO for 20% off an annual membership, which brings it down to around $220 a year for their pro plan. Very, very well priced. What caught your attention? Give the hotline a buzz and share your thoughts with the rest of us. 0480 015 150. Righto, it's time for you to take action on whatever you may have learnt in today's episode, because ideas remain exactly that, without action. If you'd like to support the work I do for small business, then please join my membership. I'd love to see you do that. Check it out over at patreon.com/marketing podcast. Membership starts at a tax-deductible $8.50 a month, and there are lots and lots of marketing goodies, inspiration, ideas in there for you to get your teeth stuck into straight away. Got some great guests coming up. We meet a coffee fanatic who's built and sold one of Australia's most bespoke coffee brands. Fleetwood Mac's manager from 1981 to 97 joins us to talk about the business of music. Can't wait for that one. I have a deep dive with the world #1 surfer Lane Beachley about business owner wellbeing, and that, my friends, is just the start. If you enjoyed today's episode, please hit the subscribe button on your favourite podcast app, where you'll find 630 more chats with successful business founders. Big thanks to Alex Amster for stitching the marketing gold together, and to our in-house rockstar Lockie Doley for the music bed. Most importantly, a big thanks to you for tuning in. Your time is precious and I value it. Thank you. May your marketing be the absolute best marketing. Bye for now.